Hey everybody, what's going on? It's your boys here at Pop Kannon. This is episode 12. I'm Jordan.
I'm Robert.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Brian.
What are we talking about today, Jordan?
Well, today we're actually veering a little bit from what we normally do, and we are going to start discussing the very first episodes of certain television series. And our first one that we picked out is Altered Carbon on Netflix.
Original Altered Carbon.
Yes.
Netflix original Altered Carbon.
So, going into this, we decided to make it so that at least half of us haven't seen the show itself before.
Right.
Identify yourselves.
I had just watched it for the first time at about midnight last night, the first episode.
I watched it about a week ago for the first time, and then I rewatched it again today since we had the time.
Ooh.
And to be clear, Andrew and I have only watched the first episode.
Yes.
Yes.
While Jordan and I have seen the entire series.
Yes.
Which is bullshit. No, I'm just kidding.
So that's another thing I'm curious about. We're gonna try and steer clear of spoilers, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
For
the whole
most
season.
part. I mean,
we're
we're
only
gonna spoil
basing
the shit out of
this
episode 1.
Yeah, we're only basing this on episode 1 of the series.
But you and I are going to kind of allude to what happens later.
Yes.
Illusion.
Not collusion.
Foreshadowing.
Well, collusion's not a crime, guys. So, anywho.
So yeah, we're discussing Altered Carbon from Netflix. It premiered in 2018, and it actually was renewed for a season 2, which is coming later this year.
The star of season 2, I believe, is Anthony Mackie.
Yes.
Which is pretty sweet.
I like it. I like Anthony Mackie.
Because Joel Kinnaman did not come back for the second season, as far as I know.
Okay.
I was just about to ask, how are they going to do that? But I after seeing the first 15 minutes of the show, I kind of have an idea of what's going to happen.
Right.
There you go.
Yep.
So yeah, the story for season 1 focuses around a guy named Takashi Kovacs.
Talk.
Yeah, or Talk for short, played by one Joel Kinnaman. So
And 2 other actors as well.
yes.
Yeah.
At least, again, this is just the first episode. 2 other actors.
But primarily in the series, Joel Kinnaman is the star, quote unquote, of the series. Yeah, and he's really what hooked me into giving the show a watch, because I'm a big fan of Joel Kinnaman's work, and
Even RoboCop?
that I did not see.
Why did he just have a normal hand?
Honestly, yeah, RoboCop wasn't bad.
Okay, sorry.
I didn't hate it. And I'm kind of a huge Joel Kinnaman mark. I like everything that he does.
It just looked like they didn't finish the CGI because he just had some regular guy hand. He looked like RoboCop at first, and they got to go and paint him black to make him all edgy. Just why?
Well, when you see a red RoboCop, you have to paint it black. The Rolling Stones said so years ago.
So,
I guess I can't argue with the facts.
Anyway, Altered Carbon, it's pretty much set in the future. And,
Yes. In the way in the future.
Did they? I don't think they ever specified other than just a few hundred years.
Yeah.
They didn't say it in the first episode, but we know that a minimum of 250 years has passed since since he's in the sleeve, which is, I don't know if we want to get into all that stuff like right now. But,
yeah, why not?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I mean,
it's like the show's kind of predicated on the whole idea. So
right. So in the future, in the unspecified future, some sort of galactic government called the Protectorate. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, is established, and all the citizens of the Protectorate are given. Oh man, I can't remember the term.
Stacks.
Yeah, stacks. Thank you. That have digital human
consciousness
in it. Yeah, there was a 3-letter acronym they used for it, but but yeah, and basically you are digitally stored within the stack that's attached to your spine, and if you die without taking an energy weapon to the head or like a bullet or any sort of projectile to the neck area, you can be your stack can be removed and put in a new body or sleeve.
It's fascinating. It's basically like,
it is super sci-fi.
Yeah.
and I figured you guys would like that.
Oh no, yeah, there's a lot I liked about this show. There's some things I didn't in the first episode, but yeah, no, I like the deep sci-fi. They go hard with the sci-fi angle.
Yeah, and the idea of the stacks and sleeves and whatnot, as it goes deeper into the season, gets into who can afford to live forever and that kind of stuff.
They kind of got into that a little bit with the Methuselahs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But
it's, I mean, just conceptually, like right out of the gate, were you guys like, what the fuck am I watching?
yeah, that's why I'm glad I got to watch it a second time. It made a lot more sense. The first time I watched it, I had to put the subtitles on right away because I was seeing like that. The first line is spoken is the girl that Takashi is working with,
Mm-hmm.
and she curses in Russian. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to put this on in case I miss anything else, because they started using terms right away, like sleeves and stacks and just all this other stuff. I'm like, what the fuck are they talking about? And he talked about some protectorate, some Praetorians, some C-Tech Praetorians. I'm like, what the fuck is this? They just went right into you're right in the deep end.
Yeah, they kind of let you wade in the deep end.
Unapologetically sci-fi.
Yeah. And that, for me, that was the hook right away, was like, oh, I'm going to have to pay attention to this. I like it.
Yeah. And so in that first scene where it's Takashi and I never got the girl's name. I don't know if they even mentioned it.
They didn't mention it in the first episode.
They're clearly on another planet. Because he looks out the window and there's either other planets or moons of the planet that he's on, like right there, several of them. So it's far into the future, and then after he's taken in, then it goes another 250 years. So it's a ways off in the future.
Yeah, and even I was like thinking about it as I was watching the show again, because I had just rewatched it, and the scene where Kovac is walking through town in the rain, and there's
Bay City.
Yeah,
which I guess is San Francisco in the future.
There's so much to unpack there, because you're getting not only the costuming for the extras in that scene, but you're getting like the architecture and all of the VR stuff that he's kind of seeing with his eyepiece.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Just
the corneal implant, I think they called.
Yeah.
Whew.
I thought it was cool, but it was just a little tropey for me. That I feel like I've seen that same sci-fi city in like 20 other cyberpunk dystopian future movies.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That there's a very Blade Runner feel to it.
Yes,
somewhat, Blade Runner, Fifth Element, Mega City. Ghost in the Shell, Mega City of Judge Dredd. But that's not a bad thing. That's just the genre.
I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just I was kind of like, all right.
No, Andrew, you said it's a bad thing.
But like, what else would you have wanted them to do?
It's the thing. I want to preface this by saying that, sci-fi and cyberpunk things aren't really my favorite. I can get into it if it's like a cool story, but I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know what else they could have done other than just the really tall gray buildings and bright, colorful holograms. I mean, that's all I've ever really seen done.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, there's other things, but it's just, and a trope isn't necessarily a bad thing.
No, that's what I was gonna say. That's what I was gonna say. Tropes aren't necessarily a negative. Tropes are there because they work, and when done correctly, you don't even realize it's necessarily a trope.
Right.
Yeah, and like you see the city for the first time, and you already kind of get a feel of what the story is going to feel like. The tone, that kind of almost neo noir-esque thing
Right.
going in.
And I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but there's a seedy underbelly.
Oh yeah, there is.
Oh no! Oh well, that's I didn't want that. That's going too far. That's a bridge too far for me.
I like my neo future cyberpunk without a seedy underbelly.
I want it to be a nice, happy top.
But we also see the opposite of that. We see the grandeur that when we initially go up to Lawrence Bancroft's like place in the sky, we see way more of that too.
It was the Jetsons.
Have you ever heard a better rich guy last name than Bancroft?
Yeah, no, that's good. So, wait, you're telling me that though we saw some very seediness, there's more seedy underbelly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And sometimes it's not in the gritty city.
Duh.
Oh.
But yeah,
And-
the Arium was amazing. It's the Jetsons if the Jetsons were super rich and collected a lot of stuff from previous human and I guess non-human civilizations.
Yeah, other planets.
And they were able to do a futuristic, high-functioning heroin.
It was probably like Mr. Spacely, like where I bet he had some of that stuff.
But we also, on top of that, we're also getting backstory for Tack throughout the season.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is touched on from when the girl that he's been communicating with, what happened to her, how he met her, and we also get more detail about his sister.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Right on.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. What intro?
No, I'm just after. I'm not gonna lie. There was a couple times during the episode when it almost felt like, okay, all right, I'm kind of not getting into this, but then something would pull me back in. But honestly, this discussion is helping, and it's kind of making me want to continue watching it.
Good. That's the whole point of this. That's the whole point of this, is we want raw opinions about the subject matter.
Well, really,
I
the
finished
whole
the episode was just kind of like, oh, okay, and now I can go to bed. You know
well,
what I mean?
really, the whole point of this though is to get Rob to watch The Flash.
I see what we're doing here. We're playing the long game, huh?
Brian,
The
it's actually
long
Lost,
game.
all right? Now stop.
No, it does a lot of what Netflix shows themselves have their own tropes,
Yes.
and one of those is the momentum halting flashback episode,
Yeah.
which happens around episode 7 or 8 in this series.
I don't
Holy
remember
shit,
exactly.
that is a Netflix trope.
It really is.
Yeah, the momentum like just everything's running on all cylinders, and they're like, "How about we just temper that down?"
Yeah, like a big thing happens.
Hit the e-brake.
I will honestly, it pulled me out of the show so hard that watching the rest of the series was work.
Oh, so there is one coming up.
Yeah, it's episode 7 or 8 like they always do.
Oh, okay. Wow.
How many episodes are there?
Got to be
There's-
13.
There's 10 in the first season.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
there's 10. Okay, well, that's not too bad.
So on the lean side.
Yeah. So it really pulled me out and made it difficult to finish the episode for sure. Or the season, I mean, for sure. But that's far into the future, and at that point there was so much goodwill built up. That's why I finished it. The action is awesome in it. I really like just the future that they built up. It's just interesting and weird, and it's tropey to a point, but it's kind of different than everybody else's future because of the concept of the stack and the sleeve, and talking about that with somebody who's watching it with you concurrently and constantly fucking up those two words, even though you know what they mean.
The Slack and the Steve, you mean?
Yeah.
You're like, well, if he gets another sleeve, he'll be fine. Like that kind of
But-
stuff. Like, and then you're like, well, I think his stack is blown out, or he ruined his stack, and you're like, no, his stack's fine. Yeah, it gets to the point where you're like using their verbiage, and it doesn't even feel weird.
That's how you know they did a good job world building.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah.
And I think that's the reason that they drop you right in episode 1 just talking, because that's how you like learn a language, is to just live among it.
Yeah, that's fair. Andrew, so like maybe since we're the new ones to this, why don't we talk about what we didn't like? Because you said there were sometimes during the episode things that pulled you out, but then you got pulled back in. What pulled you out?
I mean, there was just moments of it felt like it dragged. You know, I liked the introduction of Tak, Takashi, whatever is full. I don't know. Like the whole thing when he's pulled out and they're like, oh well, you're sold to this guy now, so you got to go up there, and just kind of like seeing the city and flying. There's just certain moments where I'm like, okay, I feel like I've seen this before, and then they get up above the clouds and like, all right, that's cool. And it's like, okay, well here's the super rich, and then all right, I don't really care. Oh, he's back down in the city, and he's on a lot of drugs. That's interesting. Cool.
Oh, Andrew.
Yeah. It was
Characters got to be all drugged out.
I mean, yeah, it's the future.
Yeah, he lives in L.A.
Yeah.
He doesn't see any characters that aren't drugged out.
Give you a
I
little,
mean,
baggage when you get here.
it's a future San Francisco, so that's completely believable.
Sorry, there was just moments where I just felt like, okay, I feel like I've seen this a million times and I'm not interested. But that being said, the character Takashi, the fact that he was so like, the cool, like, oh, well, I don't really care, and they're playing that up so hard, that archetype. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Zero
That
fucks.
it-
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
and Joel Kinnaman has a way of pulling you in.
Yeah, they played it up so hard. I was like, I'm pretty on board with this guy. I love that it's like the over the top portrayal of like, well, I'm just this hardened badass and I don't really give a shit. You know, I like that.
Learning
And-
why he doesn't give a shit is awesome.
Yeah, and that
Oh
was
my
just what I
God.
was about to say. Like, throughout the course of the season, people's motivations slowly become more apparent.
I want to keep watching just to see his story. If I'm being honest, I don't really give a shit about anything else.
You will
Right now.
learn. Yeah, you will learn more about other characters too. That makes it super interesting.
All right. Well, I mean, yeah,
So-
I'll keep watching a few.
So I didn't have the same experience that Andrew had. No, the things that didn't necessarily take me out, but I was like, I was just kind of like, on, is how quickly the characters will go between different languages. It's kind of jarring, and I get that they're trying to say that that's how the culture is. It's a very multilingual culture, and that people will just either curse in different languages or say things in different languages. But that especially in the first episode, that was kind of jarring. That really was kind of the only issue that I had. I didn't really, other than the fact that it just drops you in the deep end right off the bat. Like there's no preamble, there's no introduction. It's just right in, and deal with it.
Yeah.
And the plot point, why he was brought back, having to solve the murder of this dude, is super interesting to me. Like him being like, oh, you have to solve my murder, and I've been backing up my consciousness every 48 hours, and right before my consciousness was about to be backed up, someone blew my stack out. So
Hey.
The idea of he is basically immortal is pretty interesting and also a little bit unsettling for this guy. He's so rich that he's basically overcome death. I thought that was an interesting tidbit, and yet he's still trying to get his own murder solved.
yeah, and he's already established the fact that, oh well, we had an energy blaster, but it could only be opened by my fingerprint or my wife's. So like he's already like, can I trust my wife?
Yeah, and she becomes a real interesting character.
Well, she seemed really interesting with the dress that clearly she did not have a bra on under.
Yeah, bras aren't a real thing in the future,
You
apparently.
see more of her
All right.
as the show progresses. She's all there.
She was definitely into Takashi too. In the elevator.
Oh,
Yeah.
With that, she's not happy. Not in a happy relationship. Still her husband.
She definitely wanted him to be into her.
Well, when you, I can imagine that Mr. Bancroft, when giving his wedding vows, and he said, "Until death do us part," did not anticipate backing himself up every 48 hours and living forever. They get bored.
I'll just say like the things that I really liked about it. I liked the world building, and I don't think I've seen a show that's done more world building in its first episode than this show. Just immediately, like I said, establishing that okay, well there are not just on other planets, but these like that was a massive city on another planet, and then that they say that there were a lot of settlements on other planets, that it's just so there's a lot of space being used.
Yeah.
I loved the technology that they showed. It was like really it was really awesome. The car that the detective picks him up in. I get it. I know it's reminiscent of like Blade Runner and so forth, but I dig that stuff. The special effects were fucking amazing too.
Oh, they were. The special effects were great.
Like the production value was ridiculous.
Yeah, it didn't. None of they didn't fall into like sci-fi Netflix territory. Like Sci-Fi the channel. I mean,
right? Yeah, Sci-Fi.
Yeah,
as it's now spelled.
So, the effects were really well done, and that's something that carries throughout the season.
It only gets better.
Yeah,
I'm glad that the budget didn't run out halfway through, and then they're just doing it all with cardboard.
Right.
But I guess what he means is more like there's never like an iffy shot where you're like, well, that one kind of didn't look that great. But
or they're like reusing shit,
Yeah. But like also with shows, like people dump a bunch of money into the pilot episode, and then in episode 2, it's like your run-of-the-mill effects for television.
Why that character didn't look like a brown paper bag in episode 1?
It's his new sleeve.
It's a paper
While
sleeve.
also operating literally as a sleeve.
It's a waiting sleeve. Yeah.
I thought the action was good. There were two good set pieces. Right at the beginning when the C-Tech Praetorians storm the apartment or hotel room.
Yeah. How cool are those guys, though?
That was cool. Oh, dude,
that was really cool.
Their helmets, they looked cool. Their armor was really cool.
Yeah.
And then he's like shooting through the wall at them.
Yeah.
Fucking blowing people's heads off. That was cool.
And then towards the end of the episode when Takashi goes to the Raven, the AI hotel, which fucks up all the Russian mob or hitmen that come to get him.
Oh yes, yeah.
I enjoyed that.
And the Raven also plays a big role. The hotel itself, because it's like alive or whatever, however you want to look at
it's
it.
AI,
in the future, yeah. Definitely plays into the finale, like the entire season, but also the finale.
Oh, good. I'm glad it's not just there for the first season or for the first episode.
Yeah,
and they just have robot Edgar Allan Poe as a character, because that's pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty
much.
That guy was awesome.
Yep.
Well, he was his first customer in 50 years.
Yeah.
Later on in the season, you learn about other places that are similar to the Raven. And the way that all ties together is awesome.
I was gonna say, was it strictly like a sex hotel, or is that just like an amenity they had?
I don't think that you're allowed to have a hotel in the future unless it offers that amenity.
When he's walking through not the alley, the street, and he's got that corneal thing on, and he's seeing all the projections. It came off very much like it was a sex hotel.
Yeah.
But that, again, that's just from that in the first episode. But I thought it was really cool. The what they call him, the Digibrain, the Edgar Allan Poe, like, he was hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, he was like, oh, also they were extremely rude.
Yeah, his
I'm fully licensed to protect our customers. Also, they were extremely rude.
the hotel becomes its own character
Mhm.
basically through him, and it's very interesting to see the way that they handle it, and the way the hotel becomes very protective of its guests. I'll say that.
All right.
I liked I liked, for the most part, the detective. Was it Ortega?
Yes.
Yeah. There were a couple times when she came off a little, like just a little too much.
I agree.
But overall, I liked her.
She's very reminiscent of Agent Madani.
A little bit.
Little bit, but I
Little
feel
bit.
like even angrier from time to time.
Yeah.
She's playing like the foil to Takashi and like the extreme,
Mm-hmm.
where he has this unaffected coolness, and she's like, I'll fucking shoot you. I'll
Yeah.
fucking shoot you right now.
Yeah, she we dive more into her too as a character, and she really she's got a very interesting story,
Okay.
and there's a reason why that she's going and doing the things and kind of overreacting almost.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we had this discussion, because now I want to keep watching. Because I feel like if we didn't, then I probably wouldn't have watched it based on the first episode.
Yeah, honestly, like, I think it's definitely worth the watch just to have like another new sci-fi thing, because it's not, as to my knowledge, it's not based off of a comic or
It's
an
based off a
anime.
book.
Is it based off a book?
Yes,
Like a novel?
a novel. Yes.
Okay. Is it also called Altered Carbon?
I believe so.
Okay, interesting. Because I would be willing to read it, because that's how much I enjoyed season 1.
Some of the names came off, and not in a bad way, but just came off very comic booky to me. Like the Takashi in his first life, when he was an envoy, part of that group of, I guess they're technically mercenaries.
Yeah.
I don't know. Of course, I'm going to watch, so I'll find out more. But under Quillcrest Falconer was her name. Wow, that's a mouthful.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they're going to change. I'm sure in flashbacks they'll probably shorten that to Quill.
Yeah, probably. But that adds with the
Crest.
whole like kind of pulpy aesthetic too,
Yeah,
which is cool.
Takashi
I like
Kovacs is a cool name though.
that. Yeah.
I thought that was a really cool name.
Yeah, because it's a blending of like two completely different nationalities.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you're like, oh, the future, everything's just gray. Got it.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of reminded me a little bit of Firefly, in that future, it's like the U.S. government and the Chinese government formed the big government. So there's Chinese aesthetic and words in play as well as English. So yeah, that kind of reminded me of that. I'm definitely going to watch the rest of the season. It got me. I definitely am curious as to where it goes. I do like the design choices, the aesthetic. I like the cast. So yeah, I'm very curious.
And so, Andrew, like you had said, you weren't initially going to watch more?
I mean, it's like I was saying, sci-fi and cyberpunk isn't my favorite to begin with. And it just kind of at first just felt like any other thing in that genre. But hearing what you guys were saying, how we're going to get more, if it goes in a different direction that doesn't just feel like the same story I've heard 1,000 times, then that's cool. I'm also I liked the character Takashi, so he's also kind of the reason I wanted to keep watching.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't really care about anything else.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Fair. but I'd say like I was kind of on the fence about it. But talking to you guys, yeah, I'll keep watching it.
I will say that it in addition to that flashback episode, for me it hard left to end it in a way that I didn't expect, and then in retrospect I was like, I don't know that I wanted that to be how it ended. For me, I mean, it might hit differently for you guys, but for me I was definitely just like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It
Like
took
that's how I felt about it. It wasn't a good thing, and it wasn't necessarily bad. It's just I was like, I didn't want it to go here.
it definitely hard lefts at one point, but I think it hard lefts in a very interesting direction for the story. I think Andrew's really gonna like it where it ends up.
Yeah, going into this episode, I definitely thought we were gonna get Andrew going like, hell yeah, dude, I'm 100% in, and Brian going like, I'm gonna watch it now because we talked. Like, I felt like it was gonna be reversed for sure.
You don't have to confirm or deny any of this, but like, yeah, there were definitely elements that I was a little surprised that Andrew didn't get on. Like, when they first walk into the Bancroft's place, there's that tree, the song spire. Is that what it was? Something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And she talked about like an elder civilization. I was like, oh, that's cool. Are they like space elves or something? And then upon the second viewing, I noticed that when he's walking through the city, it's a projection of like a fighting dome. There's like two things that fight. They're not people. They're either creatures or they're made up to look like creatures.
I think they called them battle sleeves or something like that, or combat
right,
sleeves. People were
they
thrown
had
into
pointed ears and looked orcish, elvish, something like that.
Like Rhino.
Yeah.
Oh,
one guy looked like the Rhino. Which is cool.
But yeah, so again, see how that pays off if that goes anywhere. So,
well, I mean,
but yeah, I was a little surprised that that didn't get you at all. So.
No, honestly, this is like I said, there was points when I was struggling to focus, and now that you're mentioning like the tree was cool and they did show the cave, and how he was like, oh yeah, I've seen this shit before, and like
the stronghold.
Yeah, there's definitely things that I liked. And I
don't think you should watch now.
Hey, how disturbing was that scene in the beginning when they're like, "Oh well, this is the free sleeve you get," and it's like a 7-year-old girl got tossed into the body of like a 50-year-old woman.
Yeah. So like
that was very upsetting.
And they explained that like, if you're murdered, you can get a free sleeve, but it's just whatever they have lying around.
And they literally have sleeves lying around.
I like the idea
because they're all criminals.
You don't just get a clone of your original body.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just like, hey, we need to put this in something. I don't know. Here.
Some people.
Yeah, the future's definitely fucked up.
Some people can get clones of their bodies.
Well, that guy.
That's what I was going to say. Like, Bancroft's got to be a clone of himself because I mean, he seems like a vain guy who would spend all the money in the world to make sure that he didn't have to go into another sleeve.
Yeah, and that's Takashi even said, like, I've never met anybody filthy rich enough to have a backup on a fucking satellite.
Right.
I assumed he could just do whatever he wants at this point.
I think a lot of people have USBs of themselves, and he's got like a full-blown solid-state drive. But that whole
I just remembered something that happens.
Oh, now we're in for it.
Because okay, so this isn't really a spoiler the way that I'm going to phrase it.
Because I was going to say, please don't spoil.
So there's one point within the show where we find out how in the future people are tortured.
Oh.
I'll put it that way.
Okay.
Oh, I totally forgot.
Dude,
it's been
me
over
too.
a year since I watched it.
I know.
Oh.
Well, this sounds.
Well, that is Andrew's bag. That is his stock and trade.
Future torture. That's it.
Future torture. I'm sold. I mean, I was sold even before we discussed it. I was ready to watch more, but I was like, oh no, I gotta hold off. I just want to give my honest opinion of just this episode. So I'm definitely looking forward to watching more. Hopefully, in a future episode, Andrew and I can just give a quick update. Once we both finished it, of what we thought of the whole season.
Yeah, I mean it's only 10 episodes. We can get that done.
Yeah, so around August we'll talk about it. 2020, I mean. I don't want to rush it.
Well, we'll wait until we're all in new sleeves, and then we'll reconvene.
Hey,
and
nice
do
little harken.
I would do that now. I'm done with this sleeve.
Can I just get like a new back?
They don't just give out new backs, Andrew. You need a whole new sleeve.
It's what we had laying around,
My doctor
Andrew.
says
All
I need
right.
a backiotomy.
I got a bad back.
And you'll have to then accept any baggage that comes with your new sleeve.
Oh yeah, because there's that. That's a thing.
Oh yeah, true.
That is a thing that happens to the Joel Kinnaman Takeshi sleeve. That hits like a brick.
Okay.
Because you don't really expect it, and then you're like, "Oh God, this is dark."
Right, because he's a criminal.
Yeah,
obviously. Yeah.
So it gets dark. But just even from the very first shot, is it not the human packaging of the sleeve where they have to drain it out?
Oh, that was
No, the first shot is him. Is Joel Kinnaman dangling, or not dangling, but floating.
Oh yeah. And then they package him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's disgusting. That made me want to vomit. In a way
Oh,
that
absolutely. No, so that's what was like the production value on this. Like that all looked the way they wanted to. Like he goes to the shower and it's still got the globs of jism.
Yeah. It's like if a human was a chicken breast. That is what.
Salmonella.
And I'm fairly certain that the only trailer I saw for it, like the very first trailer I saw for it, I should say, was just that sequence of him being unpacked.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And then it was just like altered carbon. And I was like, what the fuck is happening in this show?
And based on that, no thank you.
Well, no, for me, I was like, let me find an actual trailer for this damn thing.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
And then I watched an actual trailer that had like some dialogue, and I was like, oh, this is weird, but I love it. So anybody who is a huge sci-fi buff, I believe, should definitely check it out, because it's certainly worth watching, and that's why we were urging the two of you to check it out.
Yeah, and I'm very happy that we got you guys to watch this.
It is deep sci-fi. I do recommend it as well for anyone who likes sci-fi.
Yeah, I'm on board. I want to see Takeshi beat people up
Oh, you will.
and carry around that backpack.
So for all of you Sci-Fi fans,
That little pinky, the little unicorn backpack full of
hey,
drugs.
that carries him through, all right?
That's awesome. That was so great.
That's like the spinach to his Popeye.
This is drug bag.
All right, for Pop Cannon, I'm Jordan.
I'm Robert.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Brian.
And we hope that we've convinced you guys to watch Altered Carbon on Netflix.
Hit us up on the Twitter machine.
Seriously, what was up with RoboCop? Let us know what you thought of
Altered Carbon, but also WTF RoboCop.
The new one, not the original.
Right.
See ya.
One of these days we'll learn how to end an episode.
No, that it's part of our charm.
All right, bye.
Our 12th episode is in the books. It's the first in a new series of episodes we're calling S1E1, where we go back and watch pilot episodes of TV shows and dissect and discuss them. This episode, obviously, as you've heard, is all about the Netflix original Altered Carbon. Based on what you heard here and what, if anything, you've heard elsewhere, are you willing to give Altered Carbon a shot? Are you a big sci-fi nut? Do you enjoy action thrillers? Because this is entirely that. Let us know what you thought of this new series. We want to hear from you. To find us on social media, just search Pop Kannon Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Make sure to give us a follow, like, and subscribe so you never miss our awesome goodness. Don't forget the K, it's what makes our branding fun and unique. We're available on a litany of podcast platforms, and if you're listening to this anywhere on Earth, you're already aware of that fact. And if you can't just get enough of the Pop Kannon guys, you can follow all of us on social media individually. God help your crazy soul. I, Robert, am on Instagram and Twitter at Yesball. Jordan is on Instagram and Twitter at JL24FPS. Andrew is on Instagram at AndroidSkeleton and Twitter at flavored_red. And Brian cannot be followed. We thought we had a lead and we followed him down a seedy neo-noir alleyway in a gray futuristic city, but we found his sleeve in a dumpster and the stack was missing. He could be anyone now. Brian? Brian, if you're listening, we need you. We want to record our next episode, but we can't find you. Just give us a clue. God, the future is terrifying. Anyways, thanks for listening, and be sure to follow us now, because the second episode of S1E1 is coming in just 1 week, and oh, 7 hells, you're not going to want to miss that.